Welcome to the Taylor James Show, where we pair extraordinary wine with extraordinary musicians. Today, our special guest is blues rock recording artist Shaun Verreault. We'll hear all about his years as frontman with Widemouth Mason, his solo career, and combining music and family life. But first, to Liberty Wines to pair the perfect wine to complement Shaun's unique talent. All right, here we are at Liberty Wines store in North Vancouver. We're very, very excited to be here because I've been a big fan of Liberty Wine for many, many years. And what a privilege to have the owner of Liberty Wine with us, Robert, who has so much knowledge. I've been just amazed standing listening to him talk because he's been in the business for many, many years. Give us a little bit of your background and how you got into the wine business.
I started in the wine business in the mid-'70s, and I found that I had an ability to taste the differences between wines that was a little bit unusual for other people. And that sort of quickly became a passion. And in 1980, I opened a retail wine store in Washington State. And a little before that, actually, I established a restaurant where we had an amazing wine list, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of selections, which at that time was relatively rare. And I stayed in Washington State for a long time. And then in 1989, I started working with the North Shore Wine Cellars here, and we subsequently purchased the company. And that's become Liberty Wine Merchants and 6 stores now. We also like to be really integral part of the community, so our stores will reflect what our consumers are purchasing. And we have a really strong social conscience, so we really like to give back. We support the Canadian Breast Cancer Association, Children's Hospital, amateur sports, the SPCA, the food bank. And we do 7 major tastings throughout the year, which are very affordable to attend, and 100% of the proceeds go to the charities.
That's really, really amazing.
And that's this year we're going to hit $500,000.
Wow.
Over the years. So
very, very cool. Yeah, I was researching your store, and when I saw that, I was just like, it just melted my heart. I thought, isn't that amazing that you're giving back? We're going to get to the segment now of Shaun Verreault, who we've paired with Liberty Wine. He had the band Widemouth Mason. They did great things, had a lot of hit songs on the radio, and nominated for many Junos. And Shaun has gotten older and evolved, and he's one of the best guitar players, probably. I would almost say in Canada, but we can say for sure in BC.
Cool.
He's very intelligent, deep guy. I always make a joke that he's a thinker for sure. Like some of his posts are so deep about music on Facebook, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But I know it's very meaningful.
Most certainly.
And he's put a lot of thought into it.
Funny as heck too, though.
Very funny.
Yeah.
But to meet Shaun, he's very calm, cool, and collected, and he's a father now. He loves his, he's a family man, and he's like a good bottle of wine. He's really matured.
Well-rounded, nuanced.
So we heard some of his music earlier. We played some Widemouth Mason cuts. It's super awesome, rock blues, and he's got that sizzle. So we have some wines that you both
selected,
you and Jeff. And so you guys talk about what you chose and why.
Well, when I first thought of Shaun, I thought we should maybe look towards a Pinot because of how interesting and complicated and nuanced they can be, and also super pleasurable. And you had so many wonderful suggestions here at the store. One you talked about was the Underwood from Oregon, but what are some of the things you really liked about that one?
I love this one because it's reasonably affordable.
Yeah.
So it's Oregon Pinot, but it isn't crazy expensive. It is very, very typical Pinot. You wouldn't mistake this for any other varietal. This is really great value for money, super delicious now.
That's really cool. I love it. That's his French, I believe.
Yeah, it is.
You suggested this to us earlier, and we all love the icon on it, but maybe you can talk a little bit.
Sure, it's a blend of Grenache, Cinsault, and Mourvèdre.
Okay.
And a little bit of Syrah. The wine is incredibly rich, spicy, complex, totally delicious.
Complex,
old vines.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of stuffing, a lot of history, which is fantastic. Mascabonnel Fougère.
Yeah, I love that.
I believe how old that is. That's fantastic.
Amazing.
And this one you raved about when we arrived. I was talking about a Beaujolais or a Gamay and something lighter, maybe a little more nuanced, and you thought this was something you loved.
So Domaine Calot is one of my favorite Beaujolais on the planet. And Beaujolais, everyone thinks Beaujolais, they think simple and easy, and yes, it's simple, and yes, it's easy, but there's also fantastic Beaujolais, and that's the Cru Beaujolais. That's the 9 little regions, and Morgon is one of them. But Morgon is one of the finest. And these wines are serious but simple, if that makes sense. In terms of just totally delicious drinkability, gluggability, juicy, you know, this is one where the slippery slope is you will not have one glass when you open this bottle.
We don't often have one glass.
No.
It is a wine that should have a secret label and just says "drink me," because it'll talk to you. Every glass will get better and more delicious.
Oh.
It's made in the most handmade, authentic method possible. It's fermented in all in oak. There's no stainless steel. The barrels are tapped with a little copper tap. It's poured into a pan, then goes into a little tank where it's then bottled by hand. One of the things that's nice is that they've had the vines in the ground for a long time. They haven't just purchased the land. They live in a house that's paid for. They own their vineyards. If they have a tractor, it's really old. And a lot of places they're still using horses.
Wow. Oh, I love that.
And they're using old barrels. They haven't, this is not, you're not walking in here and seeing lots of stainless steel and fancy pumps and any of that stuff. It's really, really an authentic method that goes back hundreds of years.
I love it, and I love the drinkability factor you've been talking about, and I really think that that's going to work well with our whole scene, and I think it's the perfect wine that's going to accompany him.
So we're choosing this one?
I feel like it's my choice. What do you
Okay.
think?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea.
Taylor, do you agree?
I agree.
I want to drink that right now.
I want to drink it right now.
No, I want to drink that now.
Perfect.
That's great. Okay, perfect. The winner is?
Domaine Kello, Morgon, and this is the Cuvée Tradition.
Awesome.
Can't wait.
Shaun.
Hi,
How are
Tina.
you?
I'm excellent.
Good. Thank you very, very much for coming and supporting me in my little vision here of my wine and music show.
Many of the things I like.
Yeah.
Good friends and music and delicious things.
Yeah. So my idea was inspired because I think that the passion for wine is very much the same passion for music. You have to really, really, really love it, honestly. You can't get into the music business to get famous because you just wouldn't be able to sustain all the ups and downs. So I think it would be this very same for a winery. People who put their heart and soul into wine go through a lot of ups and downs and hang in there, you know. Before we get started with the wine, I just want to talk about you just a little bit. You have been in the music business for easily 25 years, would you say?
Yeah, let's see. We made our first record when I was about 21 or 22, and I'm 44. So yeah, I'm a vine of much vintage, I guess. Now.
Yes, you are.
And I do look at it that way. I think you're exactly right that the people who are dipping their toe in it for the residual rewards, it gets old pretty fast when you realize that it's like the glamour is like an iceberg, and there's a little tip of it that's really great and photogenic and these wonderful opportunities, and then there's all the other stuff that goes into it. I've come to a place where I look at everything like when you learn how to do one thing well, if you really are aware and pay attention to it, it teaches you how to learn how to do anything. And playing music kind of teaches you how to be a good cook if you pay attention and you mix different elements. Well, we have some minor chords and some major chords, and we need them to go together. Or we have sweet things and sour things, and we need them to go together. And I think everything I look at now is a series of problems solved and a bunch of decisions made. Everything from a guitar to this table, someone made the decision to make it that way. And the bottle of wine on it is who chose to use those grapes, and did they blend them with anything?
Yeah,
and
it's deep.
Yeah, it goes
So
deep.
this is the perfect segue into how we paired this wine for you.
Yeah, what is it about this?
So we
that
chose
tastes like
Liberty
me?
Wine. We were very fortunate to have the owner of Liberty Wine help us pair this wine with you. So when we went to the store, we said to Robert, we wanted to describe Shaun Verreault. And we played a little bit of 2 of your songs, and his mind was just swimming. And based on our description of you and your music, they felt that this was a really beautiful pairing for you. And it's from France, and it's a Beaujolais. Well, let's just try it, Shaun.
Let's try it.
And let's see.
I have ancestors from France, so
See?
this is fitting.
That's
The
how did
Verreault
we
part
know?
of it,
How did we know? The Verreault part.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's like when you're in the studio and you're trying to put words to things that don't really have the vocabulary in place, where you'll be like, I just want this part to sound harder,
You know what
or
I'm struggling with
purpler,
right now.
or
Yes.
what is it? It's like this, and you start to use similes and stuff. Like, it's kind of, you know how this is to this, that's what this part needs to be to that part.
cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Nice nose.
Oh, that's lovely.
He said, this is what's funny, he said, when you open that bottle of wine, you're going to have to drink it all. And I thought, well, it's kind of what I do. Okay. So, Wide Mouth Mason.
Can I keep drinking this?
Absolutely. This is your wine.
All right.
So, Wide Mouth Mason, was it 1995, I think, is when that all started?
Yeah, we were, the band itself started quite a bit before that in my drummer's basement, right out of high school. And my drummer, Safwan, is the first other musician I ever played with. When I had an acoustic guitar, and he had pots and pans before he even had a drum kit.
Wow.
And we just were two only children who it gave us a thing to do, and we hung out together. And over time, I met the bassist, our original bass player, Earl, playing at a variety night in a high school. He was the bass player from this other school, and I was his guitarist. So we met each other and started jamming. And we just end up in Saf's basement, me in my tie from working at a music store, Earl in his Arby's outfit, and Saf in his coveralls from working for the city. And we would just bliss and zone out and play jams for an hour. They wouldn't be songs that existed yet. They would just be jams where we'd be feeling it out and conversing with each other musically. And we started to play in blues bars and learn enough songs to get in front of people with a total naive view that people don't want to hear songs they know all the time. They want to hear these obscure album tracks and blues jams, which we found out quickly when there's a Canadian musician who's been playing in bars forever named Carson Cole, who I got a call to. I'd been working at the music store and I got laid off, and the next afternoon when I was wondering what to do, I got this phone call going, "We need a guitar player. We're going to Yellowknife. We're going to be there for 4 weeks or maybe longer if the ice bridge doesn't melt, so it might be like 6, 8 weeks. Do you know all these songs?" And I went, "Sure, totally. I've heard those on the radio, but I didn't know how to play any of them." And I thought we'd get together and rehearse and go over stuff. And like 2 hours later, I was in a van heading north.
Wow.
And it was during the giant mine strike when a whole bunch of battles were going on between union workers and non-union workers, and every night the gig would end with "Hide behind the amps, people are fighting," and they'd bring in these refrigerator-sized RCMP to break the fights up. So it was a real baptism of fire, like now you're on the road, now you're playing for people. And I think it was really, really important part of our development to not just play around our hometown where our friends were going to say that it was great, but to show up in some tiny little bar somewhere where people have been drinking all day long. They only want to hear 3 of the same songs over and over again. And it's unfortunate to say, but the fact that we have a drummer of Pakistani descent and a Filipino bass player was an issue in a lot of the places that we went to where they didn't want to like us from before we started playing. So learning how to navigate that, how to take control of that situation, how to, with authority, use the microphone and have the songs and the showmanship to make them get it, was exactly the same muscle that once it developed, that we started getting more opportunities. And we played a show in Saskatoon opening for Big Sugar, and they just went, "What are you doing for the next month? You have to come on the road and open for us." And we had, whenever we'd kind of been at one plateau for a while, just from playing live, someone would see us and go, "You should open for George Thorogood in the States," or "We got a gig opening for ZZ Top," and then it grew, and
Stones.
and each one of those was like, okay, now this is the biggest room we've ever been in. But we would just think back and go, if that guy who stood in front of Saf like this for an hour, who eventually ended up buying us drinks, if we could make that guy get it,
wow, that's incredible.
I'm gonna look the Stones audience in the eye and make them get it.
Putting music aside, you're now a family man. You have a beautiful wife and daughter.
Yeah.
How old is your little girl now?
She just turned 6. She's
6?
in kindergarten.
Oh
and
my
is
goodness.
6.
She's so adorable.
Thank
and
you.
so how was the transition from tour, crazy musician, fame, into daddy and husband?
Good question. It was a longer transition with, being on the road for 250 days a year was the most exciting life in my 20s. And then as I got into my 30s, I started branching out into writing with other people and doing other kinds of gigs, doing some solo performances. I think when we came up, there was very much your band is your gang and you appear with them all the time, where I've always appreciated about jazz musicians and about a lot of people now who, because the bottom fell out of the industry, have to do a bunch of gigs. I always have really grew to appreciate a mix of different experiences as a musician,
you're the master of
producing
that.
records and writing with and for other people and doing wide mouth gigs still. So the transition before my daughter was born was I started being around Vancouver a lot more and doing different kinds of shows, playing with different people. And then when she was born, I really took a look at a lot of my peers who've watched their kids through their viewfinder on their phone or, FaceTimed those big moments. And I love playing on the road, and I love the magic that happens when you're 6 gigs in without a day off and your throat's kind of shot, but you start doing things that you could never do otherwise. But I love also going to play a couple shows and then flying home and being home all week. I have a gig during the day at a guitar design company in Vancouver that I absolutely love. I can't believe my good fortune of falling into this gig of designing stuff with Fender and Taylor and Gibson and Martin during the day, and talking with guitar makers from around the world who designed the very first guitars I play or who were collaborating on the design of new stuff. And then I go home and I make dinner for my family and I tuck my daughter in and I pick her up at school. And I have a very musical life. In fact, I probably play as much or more guitar now and write more than I ever have.
Wow. So what are you most grateful for, Shaun?
I'm grateful to the perspective. We met, I think, on one of those military tours, going to play overseas. And I think travel is a necessity more than it is a luxury. And any kind of travel that broadens your worldview, that gives you some inkling of perspective, that on a day when you're going, my tone sucks because this venue has bad power and it's buzzing or whatever, and you think of, remember those kids we saw who grew up in a minefield, who have never had fresh meat in their lives, that wasn't hanging in a place with leaded gasoline and warfare and stuff around them, and none of them have not had a family member that's been killed by something brutal. And I think I'm just grateful that I have the perspective to appreciate that most people who ever lived have never sat on a couch and had a glass of wine, completely safe.
Yeah.
My grandfather worked way harder than I ever have, pulling a ferry back and forth manually across the Saskatchewan River before there were motors. And he had I think the person I most like maybe is my Grandpa Joe, and that I'm maybe blessed with a disposition that's like, well, this is at least interesting, even if it's bad.
Yeah, really great. It's really great. So we're going to do a song together, Shaun, this morning.
Yeah.
That's off Nazarene, right?
It was, well, we did a first record that was called The Nazarene, and then it turned into a bunch of the songs got re-recorded for our self-titled record, which amazingly came out now, 21 years ago. And it's, I think
21 years ago.
Besides some Bee Gees stuff, it's the first song we ever did with a female singer on it. So that was a perfect choice. I'm excited to do it with you. And
I'm excited too.
You chose all the band members who I'd want to hang out with and play with.
Well, I kind of knew when I told you who's in the band, it would be a pretty slam dunk.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have another toast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's alright. I'm not superstitious, so we'll grab an umbrella.